Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Bommer 4030-6-601 single acting UL listed spring hinge in a bright black japanned finish. So the 4030 is representative of the fact that this is a single acting spring hinge by Bommer. The -6 is reference to the size. But in the world of Bommer, the size doesn't as much equate to any dimension specifically on the hinge, even though it does. It's more of a correlation between which hinge is appropriate to use based on the thickness of door. And in Bommer speak, 6 would be the right size for an 1.75" door. And that's what this hinge is for. The leaf height on this hinge is 4.5 inch, and that means that it's going to be appropriate for use on steel doors, on wood doors, on any doors really that are prepped for 4.5 inch by 134 thousandth leaf thickness hinge prep. That is the most common size of hinge for this sort of stuff. The 601 means that it's in a bright black japanned. That's just the color. Okay, different finishes available on the website. There's a link below this video to both the instructions and the template. The template gives you everything important dimensionally about it, so I'm not going to beleaguer all those points here. Other than really the most important one is that you know that this is for an 1.75" door and that this is 4.5 by 134 thousandths. Okay, the instructions, and they're included with the hinge itself, are very straightforward. However, it helps to read them first and then to read them a second time. This hinge is kind of unlike other Bommer hinges, but it's set up with a specific installation procedure, and if you follow that, you'll have 100% success every time. The bottom line is this. This is what the hinge is going to look like when it comes to you. Okay? There is a preset tension on the spring in the barrel. Bommer's instructions say that when you're installing this, don't remove any of the pins. Don't remove the tension, the preset tension. Preset tension means that they've already cranked the spring over and inserted a pin on both top and bottom. Don't remove those, is what they're saying. Just don't. The reasoning they're going to say that that's going to work is because the degree of opening that the door is going to be at, whatever, 70 degrees, whatever it'll be, gives you ample room to get your tools in there. A center punch, okay, drill bit, a screwdriver to attach everything. Once this is flush to the door or to the frame, you'll have an adequate amount of room to do the same on the other side. Once this is flush, you can see that you can get your tools in here to get this all mounted. What Bommer says is, once you've got it attached, go ahead and give it a try, because there's tension already set. If you need more tension, refer to the instructions. It's that simple. That's going to be down at the bottom under the heading additional tension. If you're dealing with a left-hand door, you're going to work with, this is a left-hand door, or in your case, a right-hand reverse, where the door is going to swing out towards you. You would insert your included tension rod, okay, and you're going to rotate this in a clockwise fashion. You're going to crank this over. And you can see that when you do so, you'll reveal an additional hole that's in there that you can move that tension pin and set it into that new hole. That will give you a greater amount of tension. If you're dealing with a right-hand door, you're not going to use this one. You're going to use the tension collar at the bottom, but this time you're going to rotate that counterclockwise. So when you're going to be down here, at this point the door would have to be partially open, and you would rotate that. It's just hard to do it because there's so much tension already set. But you would rotate this per the instructions this direction, and you'd be able to move that pin over a little bit. Although in most cases the preset tension is going to be pretty much what you need. Screws, all wood, all metal screws in a complementary finish are included, and the fact that there's metal screws is definitely a tip that this is going to be something that can be used on fire-rated steel doors. There is a guide below this video to usage, okay, in terms of how many hinges you're going to want, what size and weight you're going to want, okay. 2 hinges up to 125-pound door, 3 hinges up to 155-pound door. Okay. 3.0, 4.0 width, depending on the quantity of hinges, up to 7'6". Okay. I'm a big fan of, and yes, it is true, these hinges are not inexpensive. And I'll segue at this point. You can't see the logo on this leaf, but it's there, and right above the logo it says Made in USA. So the point is, well, it's true these hinges are not inexpensive, nor is anything that's 100% made in the United States. Even the steel that goes into this is domestically sourced. A fact that Bommer is quite proud of, as am I to represent them. I'm a fan of all spring hinges, because if your door is prepped for 3, go with 3. If your door is prepped for 2, well, obviously go with 2. That was the original intention. Unless your door is really light. You know, use the guide, use your judgment. You can always add 1 later. The bottom line, however, is that the axis of pivoting of this is not going to be compatible with your standard hinge. You're going to need, you know, to make sure that you're using all these hinges. The reason to have all of these, arguably, is that disproportionately the amount of work is attributed to that top spring. I have found when I've got more spring hinges rather than less spring hinges, I get a greater amount of control over the function of the door, over the good performance of the door, meaning the reliability of it closing and closing correctly all the time is something that's more easily achieved when I'm working with more springs on the door, because that top hinge is doing a lot of work. I have found when I've got 1 or only 2 spring hinges on a door, I'd have to crank that top spring to get enough inertia through the closing cycle to get it to latch, to overcome the friction of the latch bolt in order for it to actually seal, or, you know, to latch closed, a requirement for fire doors. Inspectors, when they're inspecting the installation or accuracy of fire door installations, they're going to be testing this for sure. A lot of spring tension means that door is really coming through its closing cycle fast. I've even had it where the door bounces back open because they're trying to do too much with just 1 hinge. Like 1 of these on a door just doesn't work. Also, as a result of that, if you can share the work done over all spring hinges, you'll notice that there's a greater amount of, let's say, torque. I'm not sure of the proper definition. Like rear tires on a car, if you've got greater torque, like a tow truck would have, it wouldn't have a real good top speed, but it'd have a lot of torque to get you going from a dead stop. Or a tugboat, no top speed, it's all torque. You get a greater amount to just get that door to get closed without having to really overwork those springs. And you can get the door closing at a slower overall speed, but at the end, you'll have enough residual energy left over to get it to pass through that friction of the latch bolt and get it closed. These are only my actual, you know, experience in the field, experience stories I'm relating to you in this regard, and I could be marginally incorrect on some of it. But experience speaks it speaks volumes, in my opinion. Again, available in several different finishes in the website. They'll also do custom finishes as well. I've seen, you know, where I see this hinge. New York City is where I see this hinge very often. Bommer must have had significant market penetration in New York City decades ago, and I'm sure they still do. But hotels, the custodial or janitorial or the housekeeping doors or the fire-rated, you know, mechanical doors on the floors, they all seem to have these. That's you know, that's a testament to the fact that they work, in my opinion, and that they're usually decades old. And what happens when people are having to replace this for whatever reason, they usually go back exactly with what they had. And that's just, in my opinion, a good, you know, if it worked for that long, might as well just keep with what works. If you have any questions on the Bommer 4030-6-601 single acting spring hinge in a bright black Japan finish or any other Bommer product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.